Hello, hello, hello. This is 3D or 2D.com's The 3D Show.
Put on your 3D glasses now. 3D glasses not included.
And if you're wondering what the 3Ds are in The 3D Show, well, they stand for discussion, debate, and the news. I will not be talking about
Disney ruined Star Wars.
and or
The
Defeaters.
But we will probably talk about
Avengers.
and
Mario.
I do hope you enjoyed the show. The show, get it?
Alright, welcome to episode 40 of The 3D Show. As always, I'm your host, Adolf Vega. With me is
James Tate.
And we actually got a decent amount of topics, which I didn't think it would be, considering that, you know, we have E3 coming up next week. We're recording this right now on June 12th, 2016. So if anyone is like, oh, the E3 stuff is outdated, yeah, we don't know anything yet. Some stuff hasn't happened yet. So
Yeah,
regardless,
the future.
We'll try. But it's always good to have dates that we're recording on here, so that way people don't go back and attack us for not knowing what happens in the present. For, you know, obviously the present that you're listening in now is not the present for us. The present for us is the past for you.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, like, just a couple seconds ago, that was the past. This is the present.
Whoa, this is heavy.
Let's get on to the show. What do you want to start with first?
I guess we can start with some Thor Ragnarok news.
Okay, so the Honorable Jeff Goldblum is going to be playing the Grandmaster in that movie. Now, what do you know about that character? I don't know anything about him.
I don't know anything either, honestly. I knew about Thor, but I don't know about this character. He's like an interdimensional being, kind of.
Okay, what do you think of the great Jeff Goldblum?
Kind of a weird choice, but, I mean, I've never seen this character before, so.
Yeah, they also talked about that Hulk is going to be fighting himself, which I don't know what that means. Bruce Banner will be fighting the Hulk, so I guess he's going to be trying to, balance that out somehow.
I mean, I guess. One thing I never really touched on, which is in the comics, is that Hulk and Bruce Banner are two separate personalities. And like they're two different entities, kind of.
Yeah.
And they might touch upon that. You know, like Bruce Banner might have a scene where he's talking to himself, but really he's talking to, like, the Hulk side.
Yeah, because the Hulk is supposed to be him completely unleashing from his brain. He doesn't have the super smarts that he's supposed to have when he's a human form, you know.
Yeah.
And then
it's like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, kind of. That was the idea.
Yeah. Now, the Grandmaster, I'm just looking it up on here in Wiki. It says he's one of the aegis elders of the universe. And he has a big, you know, immortality, master of all games, a big strategist, energy control, ability to will death and resurrection. So he's a pretty big Thor character, it looks like.
Yeah, he's like Collector, kind of. Like a big war character.
So, you know, we'll see what happens. I'm excited. It's actually, it might end the Thor series on a high note with Ragnarok, I think. Because it's always been kind of a lesser of the...
Yeah, I actually think that Ragnarok will probably be the best.
So, you know, I'm looking forward to it. You know, I think they're going to go full-on crazy with it. So, that's exciting. I don't think it's going to really be on Earth at all.
Nope, and no Jane Foster either.
Yeah, I heard about that. She's like, no, I'm not really feeling like going into there, which is fine because that romance is really not working at all.
Yeah, and the thing is that Loki kind of explains why that relationship doesn't work in the second one. Remember that scene?
No, I don't remember that.
Okay, well, what happens is that, like, they're on a boat, and it's after Thor lets Loki out so that he can show the way to the one place where Malekith is. And so they're going, and then he, like, turns to Thor and says, like, you're going to outlive her, and she's going to be, like, 80-something, and you're still going to look the same. So it kind of, he points out how the entire dynamic is flawed.
Yeah, I mean, on top of that, too, I don't think, what's her name, really wanted to be in the movie or really cared.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of think that Chris Hemsworth?
Yeah, Chris Hemsworth.
Plays Thor. I think he enjoys playing Thor, honestly. I think he
but her, I don't think she does, though.
No, I don't think she does.
I forget her name. Natalie Portman? Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we'll see how that works out. I never really liked that romance at all. I just thought it was so forced and just something there for no reason, and there's no need for it. The way,
I also kind of thought that, like, it was a little bit too much of it. The whole thing where she was, like, mad at Thor for, like, leaving to save Asgard.
Yeah.
I don't know.
The human element of the Thor movies have always been kind of the worst elements of it,
Yeah.
It just
like,
doesn't...
If the second one just took place in Asgard, it probably would have been really good.
So, yeah. Let's keep on the comic book news here. So, Michael B. Jordan, that used to be the Human Torch, is going to play a villain in Black Panther. No what it actually is, but people are saying that this actually may cause him not to be in a second Fantastic Four movie because of scheduling. So this may end up hitting it. And I don't know what villain Black Panther does, so I really can't help you with that. You know any other Panther villains or no?
All I know is the Claw. And this Claw guy, something Claw, he has a robotic hand, and he was actually featured in Age of Ultron. He's the guy who gets his hand chopped off by Ultron. He becomes a Panther villain.
Okay. So, there's quite a few. There's just a huge character list here of, Claw is probably the biggest one. There's Baltrock. He's like a mercenary. And there's like Killmonger. I don't know. I think they really had to go big and have something interesting. So for Black Panther, since he's such a not well-known character in the whole universe of movies and stuff. So, yeah.
So, two more pieces of information I have about Marvel is that one, for one thing, what was I going to say? It was about the Avengers or something, but basically what happened was they were having talks for the next Marvel film, right? And they were talking about maybe, because they cast this kid, right? They cast this kid for Spider-Man. I don't know his name, but everyone thinks, you could look this up. And people are saying that North is Harry Osborn. So, he's confirmed for the film, and a lot of people are suspecting that Norman Osborn will be in the film too.
Yeah.
Oh, also, this is another theory. In Infinity War, get this. This is another Spider-Man one. This is kind of interesting. In Infinity War, Spider-Man will get the black suit.
Interesting.
Like, so, the Venom suit?
Yeah,
because
yeah.
And it's been explained like this. This is how the rumor goes. So, in the comics, there's an event called Secret Wars, and during Secret Wars, they go up into space and they have this huge battle in space. So there's this person who gives Spider-Man, your suit got damaged, so we'll just give you this one because it doesn't get damaged, it doesn't break or get ripped. So they give him the black suit, not knowing it's alive. So the theory is that Collector will give Spider-Man this suit, and he'll take it back, and then the second one, he'll use the suit until he figures out, it's Venom, and then, of course, kind of the events will set up like a Venom film.
Interesting.
Finally, there has been lots of talk to have Wolverine in Infinity War Part 1 and 2.
I don't know about that.
Yeah, that's what they've been saying. And when you notice, this is kind of the same thing that they were doing for, in Spider-Man, when Spider-Man where they were talking deals with Sony, and they had a lot of press conferences where like, well, we would really like to have Spider-Man back. Like they said that. Well, now Marvel's moving on and saying, hey, fuck, how about we work out a deal?
Well, okay, X-Men Apocalypse has made decent money. Not horrible, not, it was number one the weekend it, released, and I think it's doing well now, but it's not amazing. So I think Fox still has a little bit of, I don't know. First of all, who would be that Wolverine? Because Hugh Jackman said that he doesn't want to do it anymore. Second, I think Fox is perfectly happy being the way there is right now, being that they make money on these movies, and the quality may not be as good. You haven't seen X-Men, but I did, and the review is up on the website. I gave it a 6 out of 10. It was okay. It's not terrible, but, it makes money, so I don't know if this is happening.
And so, really, though, it's all about money. That's all it's about. That's the first one we do. And a lot of things, a lot of people, you can look this up. You can look up people having series and it's honestly, when you look at the way that these directors are talking, it's like they want to do a crossover.
Yeah, I just don't know if it's necessary for the story, considering how many characters are supposed to be in this. How many? Why go ahead and introduce them too? And
I mean, look at this. This is another thing that I heard about it. Spider-Man the movie will heavily reference Daredevil. Like, for example, and this is just me going back. I forgot what I said, but the Spider-Man Homecoming will start out with a scene where a woman says, "Oh, I was saved by someone. I think it's Daredevil," and then someone corrects him. It's like, no, actually, it's Spider-Man. So this is kind of interesting because this is a theory I had. And going back to what I forgot or whatever, but this is it basically. So Spider-Man will heavily reference and include Daredevil so that it's not so isolated. Because if you really there's no mention to the Daredevil, nothing, in the movie, which I think that they should at least reference him a couple times. He is a big part of, he's a superhero too. Yeah.
I just looked up on Box Office Mojo, X-Men Apocalypse, how much money it's made. It has made approximately $478 million worldwide, 300 of that being worldwide. The budget was about $178 million, so that's, a good 300,000 or 300 million of profit, give or take. So I think Fox is pretty happy with that, not too shabby considering how much competition X-Men has right now, movie-wise. So, I don't know. I'm not expecting it, at least for the next 5 years or so. Let's see how things keep going. Deadpool, massive success, so they have no problem making a Deadpool 2, and we'll see. I don't know. I just don't see it for right now. Maybe in a few years, if I think Fantastic Four is probably going to be dead. I think maybe that could be something they could do more easily and just be like, done. Here, you can have Fantastic Four. We don't want that. But we may fight over Wolverine or an X-Men or something, We'll see.
We'll see. Now, I think that's what's going to happen.
Now, kind of speaking about that, Josh Brolin, who's going to be playing Thanos, he said that he's read the script and he loves it. That he loves how the villain is portrayed, how big the scope is. He just loves this movie. The Infinity War, which is not the quote unquote real title, but whatever. They'll figure that out later. But yeah, he loves the movie. So that's really exciting because he's a great actor, and it's about time to finally really do something with him. They've been teasing him for.
Honestly, I have high hopes for these two films because I think that they really bring everything together. That rumor that I had that we've been hearing about the Defenders appearing in the second part. I really think that this is going to bring the Marvel Universe together. I think it'll be a lot less cluttered because honestly, I'm not sure Joss Whedon would do the best job with this one.
Now, let's go on contrast here and start talking about DC and how they're trying to get their act together with Justice League. That apparently it was going to be Justice League Part 1 and then Part 2, and now they're like, no, it's just the Justice League. And it's going to be its own movie, and just the next part of it will be its own movie. I guess they're trying to tamp down. Maybe some of this has to do with maybe backlash to how people felt with the Hobbit movies. It kind of weren't their own movies that are all tied together, and there's just like Part 2 and Part 3, So I guess they're trying to make it sound better, I don't really care if it's a Part 1 and Part 2, Honestly,
it's going to be a good film. Honestly, The thing is, the problem that DC has right now is that a lot of critics and fans are not a fan of their most recent film. And when fans like you or me even like the film or see the good in it, it's not a problem.
Yeah, and it's always weird to do these Part 2s because obviously they don't want to have a 6-hour movie, But at the same time, they want to have them separate, but at the same time, you don't want it to be so separate they don't feel like they really belong. Like, for me, Kill Bill is a great example of that, where Kill Bill 1 is really, really action-packed and over the top and almost a comedy. And Kill Bill 2 is like a very serious drama and, much more grounded, and it felt totally different tonally. And I didn't like Kill Bill 2 because I expected it to be just like Kill Bill 1. And, that's the thing where you could get into that trouble, where obviously the movies like, Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 1 and Deathly Hallows Part 2 are just continuing the story. It's one 6-hour movie or whatever, 6.5, or, it's just trying to get, how do you break up that thing to make it make sense both ways, So I don't understand why they really are, it's not Part 1, it's just Justice League, I don't know how they're going to, what are they going to name the Part 2? Would it be the Justice League Returns or something? I don't know. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I'm not sure what they'll do, but what I do know is that they're going to have to get their act together.
Yeah. So
it needs to be good. This needs to be good. And it doesn't just need to be good because they have competition. It needs to be good because if they have another bomb, and I don't mean bomb. It's not going to do bad.
Disappointment.
It's going to make money. But
disappointment. If there's another disappointment, it just is not going to be good. Not just for DC and Warner Brothers. It's good to have competition. It's good to have.
I'd agree with that. Even the directors of Civil War said that they loved the competition. They felt that it helped make the film better. It actually improved, made them work harder at it. You know what I mean? Yeah.
And it's always good for business to have solid competition, to fight each other, and to try to. It's a good motivation to try to one-up each other and try to be more creative. And, if you just as one monopoly, then it could get bland because they're not trying, But if they have Fox fighting them with X-Men and DC with, or Warner Brothers with DC movies, and they're both all quality, then that's all good for the fans, You don't want just to have we're happy right now with Marvel being pretty good at being a monopoly, but it's better in the long term to have more competition. So we'll see how that works out.
Yeah, we'll see how it works. And I mean, like, in this day and age, it seems like everything that's not Disney is tanking. But, I mean, you know.
Yeah, well, I don't know about tanking it. Disney definitely is leading the pack. But, you know, most of the big movies this year have been Disney, which is, you know, Zootopia is Disney. That's like one of the biggest movies of the year already. You know, obviously Captain America Civil War is huge. Jungle Book is huge. You know, these are all Disney properties, so these are the biggest movies of the year. You know, it's fine for Disney. You know, I actually like all those movies, so, you know, I don't have a problem with that. But just saying, they're leading the pack, you know, with the exception of Deadpool. You know, everything else has been Disney, and, you know, to a degree, I wouldn't consider, you know, Batman vs. Superman a failure. Just, you know, maybe disappointment is probably a better term for it. You know, it's not a bomb. You know, it made profit. So,
yeah, but it's the same thing, or it might be the same case like Amazing Spider-Man 2, where it didn't necessarily do terrible, but it got panned, and the critics didn't like it. You know.
Yeah, I could see that.
So,
okay. All right, let's move on to Star Wars. Okay, this is a big, big story that I saw, but I haven't really seen go around that much. So Rogue One is falling apart. Okay, so
it's a disaster. Honestly, it's a complete mess. Yeah,
I guess it just hasn't gotten that much press, but I think it was a Latino review that has it, the story, and it says that 50% of the movie is being reshoot, which is terrible. You don't want to be that way, you know, less than 5 months away from releasing. And then they might hire a new director. It's just too dark, too gritty, too mature to be a quote-unquote Star Wars movie. And right now, they're still scheduling it for December or whatever release. But if it gets out that time, it would be a miracle, considering how bad it sounds right now. If they delay this until next year, that will be a disaster for Disney. You know, it would be embarrassing that they can't get their act together. And if they want to have these spin-off movies, they have to trust the people making them that they're going to be different. They can't all have the same feeling, you know? So,
I mean, like, honestly, though, I think that they should have embraced more of a dark theme. I mean, again, I'm not a big fan of the direction that they're going, and I don't know why that they'd make a sequel, or not a sequel, but a spin-off in this time period. It seems really unnecessary. But we discussed this before. But honestly, you know, you got to stick with it, even if it's dark. It's going to make money either way because it has Star Wars on it. That's something that people need to understand. And if it's a good film or a dark film or whatever, even if it's like a comedy or something, people are still going to see it because it's Star Wars.
So it's, you know, I guess I want to see what this version of this movie is to see how it compares to what the final product is.
Now it kind of makes it interesting. Like, and another thing that honestly, to me, like, shows that this is a big disaster or a big flop or something is because we were expecting to see this film this month. It was supposed to come out in June.
Yeah, I forgot about that, and then it got pushed back to December.
So, I mean, I don't know. Honestly, I'm kind of.
It's very troubling. It's very troubling. You know, it's just, I think we're both in agreement here that they can have different kinds of Star Wars movies. They not all have to be fun and positive. They could have a gritty one. They could have a comedy one. You know, it doesn't always have to be a sci-fi epic. You know, it could, you know, there's not supposed to be any lightsabers or the Force in this movie. So maybe that's some of the things they're changing to add that in there. I think there's rumors that they might want to add the young Han Solo because they want to have a Han Solo spin-off movie, the young Han Solo. So they want to have that actor kind of shoehorned into the story. And I don't know. It just sounds bad.
It seems like a disaster. It does. And, you can tell because you can tell that this film's trying to do too many things.
And I think we're one of the few people that are negative towards this movie. It's like everyone's all excited for it. And we're like, no, it's a bad idea. We don't really care about the story between 3 and 4,
Well, I mean, if they're going to set it between any film, why don't they set it between 6 and 7? That's an area we've never seen before on film.
Yeah. It just, that's much more interesting because that's a huge amount of time in between there. And, I don't know how I'm going to care about characters that we're never going to see again because the movie timeline is already set in stone, so it just sounds bad. It sounds like this is going to be a dud, and people are excited because it's Star Wars, but it may not actually work out. And if they miss this, this is going to be one of the biggest blunders of the last few years if they can't get their act together for this movie, because next year is Episode 8. So they have to, they can't be pushing things back. I can't imagine them really having 2 Star Wars movies in the same year. If anything, it's a little bit too much to have a Star Wars movie every year. It's good to have some space between them. So, I don't know. It just, everything sounds bad, that they don't know what they're doing. The script is bad, reshooting everything and having to hire a new director.
They're trying to squeeze too many things in this. Darth Vader's supposed to be in it, and all these things. The rebellion's supposed to start in it. And, they're supposed to have a young Han. It's a mess. It's a mess.
Yeah.
It's a huge mess.
So,
and I don't know. We thought that the supposedly shooting in Suicide Squad was supposedly bad, but this is a mess. Yeah, and this is a good comparison because I think I was saying before, those reshoots and those things were really overblown. This is the real deal. This is it. This is changing the movie to be different. This is, 50% of the film. I mean, come on. 50% of this film was supposed to come out this month. What a mess, honestly. I don't know what Disney was thinking. I'm going to say this. This is probably one of the worst decisions Disney has made with Star Wars. Up there. I have a list, but it's up there. This was a bad idea. Making Star Wars 7? No, that made sense. They had the right. Why not make a sequel? But this, who wanted this? I think we said it before. This could have been a really good game. It could be a really good novel, not a movie that, there's some things that need to be movies, some things that don't. And sometimes doesn't. I completely accept that. I completely accept there's a lot of things in Star Wars that should just say a book, or should just say, what I mean? Yeah, not that the games are any, really a black mark or anything, or a negative thing. It could be an amazing game with the story, and it could just be, so what? I'm just saying that there's things that work. There's things that work as movies, and then there's things that don't work. And I think that personally, this is one. So let's move on. So Warcraft is making some big bank in China, which is brand new, big news. Extraordinarily well. But another thing, right? But another thing you have to remember is that, get this though, listening,
Yeah.
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 Half of their entire player base in China. Half of all the world that plays World of Warcraft is in China. That is huge, and to me, that spells the reason why it's doing so well. Another thing is that it's killing it in England. That's another place where it's doing really well. So, to me, maybe this won't do pretty. It's not going to do well in America, but overseas, I mean, yeah, it's making a lot of money.
Yeah, so far in the U.S., it's not doing hot. It's, I think, number 3 right now in the box office. The official reports haven't come out yet, but it's not doing too well here in the U.S. But it's doing big numbers worldwide, and it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, it doesn't matter, because if you do well overseas, really well, and I mean, this is record-breaking. They're doing so well. It did so well in China. And so, they kind of talked about this. The leader of, or the person who was the director for this film said in an interview that he hopes that this film was lots of fun to do, and he hopes that it can get a sequel. Which, I mean, honestly, I kind of think, realistically, this was an incredibly hard film to put on, movie to make. It was. You have the issue of appealing to both fans and casuals. You have that problem. And so I personally think that they tried their best. They put a lot of effort into it. And, a lot of critics didn't like it. A lot of critics said it was very bad. But, I mean, if it's doing well, then maybe they can get another shot.
All right, so I got some numbers here from Forbes. Opening weekend so far, and estimated to be $24 million in U.S. of the budget of $160. But that's nothing compared to the $300 that it's making in China.
Yeah, it's already broke even just with China alone. So,
well, I think even $400, but it's right on that edge. So that's fantastic. That will make a sequel. If this is another 100. If
they were to just use their budget, that could fund 2 sequels. Because the budget of this film was $150 million.
So yeah, it could be. This is like we said before. China and the rest of the world is becoming a bigger market than America, and it just may be a bad time in America to release it. And maybe they'll. I know you hate pandering, but maybe the next movie will pander more to China. Well,
I mean, the thing is that if it has a Chinese market, go ahead, release it in China first. Release it a year. I don't care. The big market is not in America, and people can see that. There's lots of films out there that, when they bomb, they have to bomb everywhere. That's kind of the way it works now.
Yeah, and it's good. I think this is actually a good thing. And also people may be like, oh, well, I don't care if it bombs over there or if it does well over there. It matters because it's a bigger audience of people that could, like a movie. And it's not just us anymore. It's everyone. And I think having that bigger pool of people to pick for movies, which succeeds and which fails, is better. You may seem really sad that, well, if it bombed here, it shouldn't, but it doesn't matter. What matters most is that if everyone else likes it, too. So.
And it really kind of makes everyone, work harder to make sure that, films are good for everyone.
Yeah. So,
Chinese can enjoy it, and everyone can enjoy it, I mean, Warcraft's also doing well in Russia, I'm pretty sure. I could be wrong with that, but I think that's what I heard one time. So it's doing well other places. It's not, maybe America is not doing well there, but in other places it's doing well, so that's good. It's always good when films do well, because it allows for the directors or the people to get paid. no one has to lose their job, and the film really isn't that terrible. I don't see why. I mean, come on, Gods of Egypt was bad, but
so it's actually a good segue that James would actually be reviewing this movie for us. Usually I'm the one reviewing all the movies and maybe have other commentary, but James decided to take the lead on this, and so he's going to write the review. We're going to try to post it as soon as we can, and James is going to record everything. I'll edit it together, so you still have all the music and everything that you're used to in the reviews, but you definitely get, James, I respect James' opinion, and he could have a review on his own, and if Christian wants to do it, that's fine too. It's just how it works. So this is going to be kind of a new thing, as things happen, one of us may not feel like watching a movie, the other one does, and, that's going to be the opinion on the site, is James' opinion on this movie. So, I just didn't really feel like watching this. I had the opportunity to, I had money to, I just didn't really feel like it, so whatever. But, hey, James, it's your ball, let you play with it, and I hope you appreciate that.
All right, yeah, I'll get, it'll be done soon. Like, it will, it could be finished most likely by the end of today or tomorrow. I'm not sure. I'll have to write a review. Won't be that long, but, I will record something,
Okay, let's go on to some more virtual reality news. So, Getty Images has now started to publish VR pictures and videos, and this is a big deal. I think people don't really get the big, why it's a big deal, but it really is because Getty Images is one of the biggest distributors of pictures ever. It's just like one of the standard, Getty does it, and just like Associated Press is the standard. Everyone follows what they do because they're the standard of the press. Getty is like the standard of photography. And them doing VR, that's a big deal. This is not some kind of fad that's going to be gone in another year.
Yeah.
Getty's going to...
Hey, what did I say, though?
This is a year of VR starting. This is the birth of it.
See what I mean? This is like, I mean, come on. I think that I was a little bit right on that.
Yeah.
When I predicted at the beginning of the year, you were kind of like, I don't know if it'll start out. No, I think that it's going to have its really big debut. It's not going to be this one-time thing. These big companies are using it,
Yeah, I just, I don't know how many copies. I don't think they've sold 1 million HTC highs or what was it, the drift or whatever.
Not yet.
But yeah, it's actually really starting. It really is the ground level right now, and I think it's going to keep going.
Ground zero.
So yeah, and
who knows? Maybe it'll take off this year. Maybe it won't. But all I know is that we're definitely it's here to stay. Basically, it's VR is not going to be one of those things that just goes away like the virtual boy did. Virtual boy. Yeah, I think we can all agree on that, though.
Yeah, it looks good. The future right now is pretty bright for
technology.
Yeah. So it definitely is looking bright. And we'll see how the next year or two go through. There's a lot of rumors that other companies are going to start supporting VR, like Nintendo. There's actually a rumor going around that it's kind of weird. So a game got announced for Oculus Rift and Nintendo NX. And like, wait. What? And then, did you hear about that or no?
No. That's interesting now.
And basically the game, eventually they contacted the game the developer. It was like, oh yeah, it's just more of it's not really a VR game. It's like a game that will work on any system. But it's kind of backpedaling after that. I hope to get it on the NX. So I don't know if that means it's called Riverside.
We don't know what that means, but
yeah, and I think it's called Riverside the game, which I don't know anything about. But it's really strange that he would mention that. Why now? Why like this? And Riverside is like, I don't even know what this game's about. It's like it's like an artistic kind of game, I think. I don't know. It's like an artsy, colorful world, and you just go down a river and just kind of look around, and I don't know what they're really about. If it's just like a concept, not really a real game per se, just kind of experience kind of thing.
Who knows?
And next stuff is just it's just driving me crazy. I want to know what it is already. And I
we
really
don't know what it is. Still, I mean, how long is it going to be till we actually get a review of what the heck it is?
And E3 would have been a great time to do it, but Nintendo decided not to, and it's just like
it's all Zelda this time.
But they also got to talk about Pokemon. We forgot to mention that before. That Pokemon, they're going to show off a lot more of Pokemon Moon and Sun and this E3. So that's good.
That's good. I think that's a good idea, actually. That was a pretty smart move on Nintendo's part.
And you just started to confirm more Pokemon with that, and different types, and it's just there's just so much there that I don't really want to get started on that. And, just because how many different Pokemon there are, what abilities they have, and I don't know if people are super interested in that. If people are interested in us trying to talk about Pokemon, even though neither one of us knows that much about it, just give us a heads up and we'll talk about it. But we kind of don't have that much knowledge on this franchise, so I don't want to sound like a fool for talking about stuff that I don't know anything about that much, And Shovel Knight is actually going to come out in Japan end of the month, which is pretty good, And it's the first game I reviewed on the site. I gave it a 9. It's a really awesome game. I don't know if have you played Shovel Knight, James, or no?
Yeah, I played a little bit.
So, what'd you think?
It was pretty good. Shovel Knight's pretty good.
So, that's the reason why it's taken so long, almost 2 years for it to come out. It's just Japan has a very strange way of publishing movies or games. Like, you need to have a Japanese publisher, so that way you have to talk to like a Japanese publisher to publish your American games. So it's a very, very Japan-centric how they do things, So American publishers and European publishers have to get permission and a deal with the Japanese to make sure that they get money, and it's a really bad system. It's like a tariff system, and it's a really weird thing they do. So we kind of mentioned Pokemon. There was like a general election where Japanese fans got to vote for their favorite Pokemon.
I want to be the very best. To catch them is my real test. To train them is my cause.
And 36,000 people voted, or 36 voted for number 1, and the total was 500,000 people voted. And, they'll be able to get a free Pokemon in the Omega Red and Alpha Sapphire download. So, do you want to guess the top 5 Pokemon voted or no?
Well, wasn't Pikachu on there?
Yes, Pikachu is on there, but he's not number 1.
Was Greninja one of the Pikachu's?
Greninja was number 1.
Wow. Cool.
So, yeah, Mew was number 3, and I guess the god of Pokemon is like Antler Beer Thing number 2. It's really strange.
Kind of weird.
You know, Achilles is the name, I think it is. So, yeah, you would think that would be such a popular, you know, Pikachu is such an iconic Pokemon, and Grey Ninja is like really new. And I didn't know there was
but I mean, like, it might be popular in Japan, and they, you know, they picked Greninja for a reason, you know.
Yeah, I guess it's a really good starter or something. I don't know.
Who knows?
All right. So the last thing we're going to try to do here is E3 is literally coming. I think there'll be some conferences happening tonight. You know, I think it's like EA or something. I don't know. And tomorrow's going to be the big day with Microsoft and Sony, and Tuesday Nintendo, and it's going to keep going from there. And so do you have some predictions for overall, not just Nintendo, because, you know, Sony and Microsoft may be going into the VR world, and they have some...
I think that... Okay. You were talking about this earlier, but I can say safely. I think that the next... the main focus of the entire E3 next year will be VR.
It came from the third dimension with its own brain, its own voice, its own legs. There's only one problem. It needs your eyes. Virtual Boy. See it now in 3D.
That will be the big thing. VR.
It's like starting this year, so you know, it's you know, hopefully.
I mean, that's my theory right there. You heard it first here. You know, I think that, you know, VR is going to be the big thing.
No, I think Microsoft is not going to make their own machine. I think they'll just piggyback off of Oculus, you know, and just say, okay, we're with Oculus, you know, we'll have games on Oculus and Xbox, you know, and so because I think it's just easier. Oculus already comes with the Xbox controller, you know, so that makes sense. Sony apparently showed that the Neo next PlayStation is real, but they said that they're not going to actually show it off at E3. I don't know why. They would mention it before E3. Is, you know, why would you tease people and be like, oh, yeah, it's real, but you're not going to know anything about it until later. you know?
That seems weird.
I think Sony is going to have to have official... everything's solidified for VR. Like, we'll actually get the price, we'll actually get a launch lineup, and we actually get, you know, everything there. Because we had a lot of info before, but everything's going to be like exact day, exact 5 or 6 games coming out, everything there. You know, all the cards you'll be showed off. Because I don't know if Sony's going to have another thing this year with that. Do you know what Sony game you think would be great for VR?
You know, I think that maybe, what would be great for VR? As far as Sony goes, I'm not really sure. I mean, they're all, maybe Uncharted, maybe.
Yeah, I could see that because Uncharted is, you know, pretty.
If it was like more first person. You know what I mean? Like, you know how there's lots of jumps and things?
Yeah.
Like as in, like, it's very, like, first person, like, you experience, like, falling or stuff. So, like, it feels like you're actually there. You know, you could see that, right?
Yeah, it was that first-person shooter that they were doing before, but they kind of dropped recently. I think that would be a good one. It's like an alien one.
Is it Destiny?
No, It came out for the PS3 launch, and I don't think they've done anything with it in a while. That might be a good contender for PlayStation.
Do you know like the name of it? Or
I'm trying to think of it right now. It's just those kind of games where they haven't had one in a while.
There are a lot of games like that though, like that haven't.
Resistance, Fall of Man. Those games, they haven't had one of those in a while, and those could be they're first person. That could be a cool kind of thing to play in first person and have like a not necessarily a major franchise, but a big one. People have heard of that, Obviously, you never know. Ridge Racer might be it. Might be have a new one. You know Ridge Racer, don't you, James? It's got to be like in every console.
Yeah. I mean, come on.
It's Ridge Racer, and having VR Ridge Racer, that would be awesome.
Yeah.
Everyone wants that, So, I don't know. I think it's going to be interesting to see how many big games are going to be on there. I think Nintendo is going to show off one or two games that we never heard of. I think they're lowering the bar. They don't want people to get excited because they don't have much, and they know it. And they just want. I think this year is going to be a big year of for at least Europe and America, where a bunch of Japanese games that haven't come out yet are going to come out and have release dates, and that's easy. That's something that I think what you said before, Mother 3. I think there's a really big possibility of doing that just to make the fans happy. If they don't, it'll be dumb. I think.
Yeah, it seems like a dumb decision, not to do that. Honestly, it seems like a huge waste of time, a huge just like a mess up. Honestly, why not just focus on Mother 3 or make a Mother 3 game, or the translation. They have one to it. They know. They can do it if they want.
They know people want it, so
Yeah, they joke around about it. They know people want it. They know people would buy it. So I don't necessarily know what the problem is.
I kind of would want maybe Nintendo could do their own 3D classics, like because they've done them before. They released those games before on the eShop, but to actually put them together in one package, that could be a release they could do and have it retail. Maybe include Mario Brothers 1 and, for good measure, because there's 5 or 6 3D Classics games that never, they came out over the last, 5 years or so of the eShop. That would be a good compilation, good kind of thing, Have you paid those 3D Classics?
I could see that. Just scrounge together something in Nintendo. Just release all those unreleased games. Put more games on the eShop. Do something.
It's just
something.
Yokai 2, I don't know if, they're
Yokai. Yeah, Yokai Bomb over here.
It's sold less than 500,000, so it's not. That's been pretty good, but it's not, million seller like it was in Japan. Yeah, it really was, and Japan, it's different because. Talking about pandering, they completely pander Japanese culture and
exactly. They act as if there's just Japan. That's it. There's nothing else. And I think it's again what we were talking about. It's the whole Japanese pride thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So it's one of those things where, it's so catered to Japan. Obviously, it's going to be a success to Japan. If it's not a success, it's a really bad, indicator you know, because they're making it for them. There's something they could do, you know. So they're not going to mention anything for the phone. They have like a promotion going on with Miitomo, and like you get Zelda T-shirts if you retweet stuff. But I deleted that game like a couple of weeks ago. I just don't care, and it just doesn't matter really in the long term of things. So I guess what else could they release that could be something? I guess maybe a Super Nintendo remix, you know? I would love for them, Nintendo, to have a football game, like American football.
They're never going to do that, though.
They never will. I mean, I think American football is starting to make a lot of ground in Europe now, but American football is American. It is USA all the way, and I don't think anyone in Japan gives two hoots about American football at all. So they probably will never release it just because of that purpose, you know. It's not big in Japan.
Well, it won't be big in Japan. If it's not going to be big in Japan, they're not going to release it. That's the truth. That's the truth, dude. Like, that's the thing. Like, if it's not going to be popular in Japan, yeah, don't expect them to ever release it. Which, you know, that honestly kind of sucks. Like, just to be honest, like, that's just not very cool.
Yeah, it's understandable. I mean, they're a very conservative business, and they care about themselves first, you know.
Yeah, well, it's one thing to care about themselves, but, like, it seems like they only care about themselves.
Yeah. And it's a worldwide company. You know, we're in America talking right now, but, you know, it could be anywhere in the world we'd be talking about this. And, you know, it's people all over the world playing Nintendo games. And, you know, it's just, it's got to be something.
Which, you know, it's a really good contrast. You know, movies are expanding because there's a bigger market for it. So why doesn't Japan, you know, do we need to go in there and occupy Japan again, force them to make Nintendo games more American? I mean, what do we need to do?
I think it's just a matter of them, I guess Nintendo really having to understand the worldwide market and maybe have to fail again, you know?
I don't know. I think a lot of them, though, the problem is that, like, they don't necessarily, maybe they don't want it. Maybe they don't want to appeal to everyone. Maybe they just want to appeal to Japan because they're a crap. Well, they won't be around in 60 years, so they have to think about something.
Yeah, you know, because, okay, we're talking about Zelda, but Zelda's not coming out until next year, and we don't know what else they're going to really show off, but they have to have something. They just refuse to think they're not going to have a few token game announcements, you know. This is a good opportunity to maybe talk more about indie stuff, you know, really showcase those games coming out, even if it's coming out on other systems too. You know, like that Mighty No. 9, is that coming out on 3DS anytime soon? I don't know. I think it's supposed to, but I don't have a release date for that. Or, you know, games like that, like, I don't know. It just seems like Nintendo needs to have more. If they're not going to have their own games, then they can highlight other games that are coming out to those systems, you know?
Yeah, I can see that. I know what you mean.
So, yeah, I just don't know what else they could do, because they don't want to spend that much money, because obviously the NX is going to be their main thing next year. But they have to have something. And, you know, maybe I would love it if they had Super Mario 64 redone in HD graphics for the Wii U, you know? That game is an awesome game, and, you know, it definitely needs to be retouched. It's kind of hard to go back to play that game. You know, it came out 30 years ago. Or 20 years ago now, you know? So
why they need to update it maybe a little bit, but, you know.
You know, they could reuse assets to that. I don't know. They could just use DLC. You know, maybe have, you know, Majora's Mask DLC, or it's another dungeon you could buy, or it just seems like they could do things on the side help out.
They could do something. That's the thing. That's the thing you need to understand. Like, they could, honestly, they could do something with whatever they're working on. They could actually create some property that they can do. But it's like they don't want to.
So, yeah, it's just one of those things where obviously Pokemon is going to be a big seller this Christmas for 3DS. But is it enough? Is that going to be the only game coming out this fall? I guess Picross 3D 2, which, came out in Japan, I guess that can come out here, and other games here and there that have been come out in Japan come out here. But it's just a matter of they really got to figure out something. And so I really don't think the 3DS is going to hold off another year, I think they're going to kill off 3DS within the next two, so it should have at least one more big game, besides Pokemon. Pokemon's on every system. So we'll see.
They got to do something.
They got to do something. Even if it's one or two games to have basic games. You got to do something.
Yeah, they have to. Because if they don't, then it's not going to be good. Honestly, it's just not going to turn out well. Like, they're going to have to pull something together.
Even if it's like an announcement, like, we're buying Sega. That could be a big announcement, and they could, make a big change. We're buying Konami. We're going to be developing these games. Capcom. Because some of those Japanese companies, they're not really making games anymore. They're making mobile games.
Yeah, like, for example, Capcom. Capcom's not really making games. Or how about Konami? Buy Konami. Just take over Konami. Konami plans to make no more games. Just buy the rights to Castlevania. Just buy the rights to all those things. And then just, do something.
I agree.
Something, Nintendo. Just, I don't care what you do. Just do something. Because, sitting here on your butt is not good. And no one likes it. And it's just sad.
And those kind of announcements would be big enough to say, okay, you know what? I have more confidence in them for next year because it's a long time between now and next year when we're going to have. And usually this time in the cycle of generations, Nintendo or any other company would be showcasing the system and then maybe releasing the system the next year,
Yeah.
So, and if Zelda was supposed to come out last year, and now it's going to come out this next year, I just can't imagine it being that long of a presentation. So they got to have something for this year. And, Zelda is 30 this year, Mario is 30 this year, Metroid is, all these big franchises are have big anniversaries. Having something there for the fans, they got to do something. And even if it's, 3D graphics, remake of Zelda 1, which would not look that good, but, 3D graphics remake of Mario 1, that could look good. I don't know. Something. So
Something.
We're going to try to record a live show, which we're going to try to do on YouTube and Facebook. We're still trying to get the logistics out, but we're going to try to record on Tuesday for Nintendo. So just try to keep an eye out on. I don't know if I could do simultaneous Facebook and YouTube live, but we'll try. And we did that last year. Yeah. So last year we tried it, and it seemed to work. Apparently it saves it, so you don't have to, watch it live. You can save it, come back to it later. But obviously we're going to talk about what's happening live then, so it might be good to sync it up with whatever announcements they have. Maybe even a price drop. Didn't Microsoft have a price drop like yesterday or something? Price drop for 3DS and Wii U. Maybe have some more games, have price drops. Something. So Nintendo did say that they're going to have some eShop specials. If you buy them on your Nintendo account, you get like extra points or something. But they actually haven't released which games are coming out in the U.S. for that, price drop. But it might be a good time to, have that, and just anything like that they could do on the side could help. So we'll be kind of rambling on here. We're going to have to wrap it up. We also have, I guess, the anniversary. Website's been up for about 2 years now. And it's interesting how much, I think, in a way we've grown, in the way, I think we do things.
Yeah, it's like, when we go back a little while ago, just 6 months, you realize you listen to it, and then you kind of realize how different it was back then, just 6 months ago.
Yeah, I think last year I was really committed to reviewing every single 3D movie, which is not a good idea.
Yeah.
And this year, I was like, whatever, I just watch what I watch. And, I was really good about releasing, reviews before they came out if they could. And this year I've been pretty lazy so far, being able to do things. And, we've expanded out. We're now on, SoundCloud and, Google. And we still haven't got any reviews yet. But it's, we're trying to expand out. We're trying to do more things. We're going to do so much between the two, a few of us. And, we've been thinking about expanding to get more people on board. And we're trying to see, we're getting into a groove now. And I think we could expand out. Maybe for the next year, we'll have commercials and we'll have ads, which I know people don't want to, but that means we get more money coming in. That means we're more likely to be considered legitimate, and that means we're going to have more content because, for the most part, a lot of these times you go to movies, I have screenings, I could go to free screenings, but not all of them. So some of them we have to pay for. James paid for to go see Warcraft on his own, and you can't, that's not a feasible thing to do in the future, especially for games. I can't be paying for everything, So if I want to buy a virtual reality, I don't have that $1,000 laying around just to buy that to review it, But if we get money from advertisers, if we get, it's just one of those things that get the ball rolling. You get the ads, you get the money, and you get, the ball going, and you have enough profit here. Right now, we don't have anything really going on the website, anything special, really, just because I don't think of anything. I couldn't, I was thinking about doing a rerun show for the 3D show rerun, but I don't know if that's kind of lame. James, is that lame? Having a,
I mean, come on. What even would that be like one of those episodes where they just show flashbacks from other episodes?
Yeah.
Stupid. Do you like those?
No. So, you know what? It's better not to have something lame than just not to have anything than to have something lame. So, yeah, I'm not going to bother with that, really. Maybe next year we'll have something else, I don't know. I'm still on the defense if we're going to need to keep going for another year or two. It's just a matter of time and budget and effort. So we'll see. I did like doing an interview like I did last year. Maybe I could do that more often. But it's just a matter of it's hard to get those interviews if I don't have big numbers. People are not going to want to interview me. Who am I? If, I don't have, 50,000 people a day on the website or, people, those numbers matter and people reviewing matters. Having only 2 reviews on iTunes doesn't really do anything. But having 200, people start taking you seriously. You will start saying, hey, I know we have over 200 people listening probably to this recording somewhere, but having those people actually retweet and, comments and, all those things add up. You know, the algorithm on Facebook, if you comment and then your friend sees it and they like you commenting, and then it just gets more exposure and it makes things better in the long run. So when we beg for our comments and our likes and our retweets and our sharing, we mean it. We really do need those things because we want more content, more reviews, more, you know, stuff. You know, we need that. So I can't, you know, we would love to do this show live, you know, in an actual studio and have it recorded in video and, you know, all this kind of cool stuff that people do on, you know.
Can't stress enough that, you know, it all takes time. So we have to realize that, like, all this takes time, and we've gone a long way for 2 years.
So we've made a lot of progress, and I think I've gotten a little bit more negative, which is kind of interesting because I always try to keep positive, but, you know, it's kind of one of those things where more movies and more games you play, the bigger scope you have to know what is good and what isn't good. And by just watching, you know, 20 more movies a year instead of, you get to see how the bigger scale. So, like, now I kind of feel bad that some reviews I did early on were so high up. Where now I'm kind of like, oh, I would have given that lower. And now I'm trying to do more lower just because I want to feel like, you know, I don't look back and be like, oh, that really wasn't that good. Or it was good but not that high. You know, and sometimes you got to call it like it is and you can't be nice. And, you know, Gods of Egypt is awful. It really is. I don't know if you've actually gone around to seeing it, James, but it really is the worst movie I've seen in the last 10, 20 years.
Really?
You know, I gave it a 1 out of 10. It's awful. It's on Redbox right now. You can watch it on Redbox. For $1, if you just want to have really just laugh your butt off how bad it is, it might be worth your $1. But it is truly...
Well, I mean, come on. You enjoyed yourself, right?
It's a train wreck. It's a complete, you know... You know, it might be fun for that $1 just to be like, you know, have your friends over, have some beers, and just be like, this is stupid, you know. But really, you know, those kind of things, you know, even though it's a terrible movie, it's good to see the terrible movies so you appreciate the good ones more, you know. So, yeah, that's going to wrap up the show.
Yeah.
We're kind of dragging on here, so.
Yeah. All right. See you guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Alright, so that's going to wrap up this podcast.
Remember to like, comment, favorite, subscribe, love, whatever. Heart it, be something.
3D or 2D.com can be found on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher Radio, and SoundCloud. And if you want to send us email, our email address is email3d or 2d at gmail.com. And thank you again for listening. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye, everyone.